Now, this next person, I might be biased. I think a lot of people are great, but I think she's the best. Thank you. Uh, I wrote that down. Um, her favorite Christmas movie is the shirt I'm wearing, Elf. I wear it because she loves this movie. And no, but for real, she is the only one to really put up with all my shortcomings and still love me for it. So would you welcome to the stage my wife, Emily Kusunoki.
Thank you. Um, yes, I'm Kevin's wife, and I think he asked me to talk today about home because it's something that I've been struggling with for the past couple years since we moved to Hong Kong. You guys probably know this because Kevin is not shy. And so I think you know that we've moved to Hong Kong from the US like 3 years ago. And that concept of home is definitely something that's been really strongly on my mind since. And it starts with that feeling of displacement when you go through a really big adjustment. Kind of that feeling of like anxiety, depression, loneliness that comes with big changes and different circumstances, and for us moving to a new country. For Kevin, it was kind of like moving back home, but for me, it was definitely moving to a new place. And I think it really hit me, and maybe some of you guys have had this experience as well, because I know Hong Kong is like a very transient city, and definitely the most people who go to boarding school and who go to everything abroad that I've ever heard. And so when I moved to this place, I thought, okay, the first time that I go back home, it's going to feel really great. I'm going back home, like, right now I feel uncomfortable or I feel displaced, but when I go back home, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to feel comfortable again. I'm going to experience that feeling of being known that I've been missing. Or, you know, everyone's going to like be giving me so much attention because they miss me, and it's going to be a really fun reunion. But then you go back and you realize that people kind of move on with their life and that it's not all about you, and that they miss you, but, you know, they have kids, or, you know, my dad had gray hair. And, yeah, people keep living their life, and when you go back home, at least when I went back home, I felt this sense of, oh, okay, I feel uncomfortable in my new home. My old home also feels uncomfortable, so am I homeless? Do I not really have a home? And it really felt that way. So a lot of questions. Sorry, I wrote this down in some notes on my phone as I was reflecting on the way here, but a lot of questions that ran through my head is, what is my true home right now? When I think of home, I think of a place that's really comfortable and cozy, and yeah, you just feel accepted and loved. And is that home? Is it where I grew up? Is it where my parents are? Is it where my passport's from? When people ask me where I'm from, is that my home? Is it where I live now? Is it where I raise my child? Yeah, a lot of very conflicting feelings and questions. And as I was thinking about it, I realized that this isn't the first time I've had that sense of discomfort or displacement. When I left home for the first time, my hometown, I'm from a very small town, by the way. It's like, if you guys have ever heard of Amish people from the US, I live in that area. So it's a lot of farming, a lot of mountains, and bad cell phone service. But yeah, when I went to university, I went to DC, and I felt that same sense of discomfort, displacement. And also when I went abroad for the first time, I went to another country and lived there for 4 months. And when I thought about that time, there was something that, as I was wrestling with these same feelings, something that God really spoke to me during that time. And it was a verse that really stuck with me for a whole year, actually. I was reflecting on it, from Hebrews 11 about faith. And also, so I was 19 when I went abroad, and this was the time where it was really, really like edgy and cool to get tattoos when you're like a Christian in your like Christian circle. So I was really contemplating like, okay, what is it that I really want to get? What speaks to me? What kind of God is speaking into my life. And so I ended up getting this, and it's Greek because Hebrews is in the New Testament, and not to throw Kevin under the bus, but I want to be accurate. And and so I got this, and the translation of it is foreigner, stranger, Xanos, and it's ironic because now I really am a foreigner, and didn't know that God was kind of foreshadowing like a lot of my life at that point. But I wanted to share Hebrews 11 with you as we talk about what home is, and that message that God was really speaking to me at that time. And so Hebrews 11 talks about faith, and it really kind of starts off telling the stories of some really big players in the Old Testament. So Abel, Enoch, like the guy who was so good he never even died. Noah, whose family's preserved. Abraham, his descendants like the stars. Jacob, Sarah. And then after it briefly lists these people, it says in verse 13, all these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. And so the city that this author is referring to is the kingdom of God. But how can I feel at home in the kingdom of God? Is it even possible right now, or do I have to die first? How can I live by faith that they had? These people in the Old Testament, like how can I live by that kind of faith? And would that be the solution? If I had that faith, would I feel differently? And I don't know. Like I said, there are questions I have. I don't have answers. But God has taught me a lesson about home in this discomfort and in this, displacement that I have. And through that idea of this home that I seek is not really available on earth. He's shown me that he's invited many people to his city. He's created us for a specific place, but only few accept the invitation because they're too comfortable somewhere else. They'd rather turn back and return to what's so familiar. They don't feel a deep longing for the home that he's preparing for them. And so even though I hope it doesn't feel this uncomfortable forever, I do believe that it's by his grace that I feel displaced, and maybe some of you guys feel that too. And the same for, those who are feeling that in this season, or maybe have left Hong Kong and also feel that way. But God is hard at work cleaning the house, putting up the decorations, ordering the furniture. He's stocking the fridge, checking that every light bulb works. He's, without any shame, it says, preparing a heavenly home for those who are living by faith. And I do believe he cares about this discomfort, but I don't think he sees it as a negative thing. He sees it as a proper response to our actual displacement in a world that is fallen and sinful and unable to satisfy us for very long. And yeah, that's the lesson that God is teaching me about home this season. So, thank you.
That was awesome. She writes all my sermons, so that's why, anything good is from her. Anyway, I think what she brings up is really powerful and poignant, that there is an eternal homesickness that we feel. So if you feel like you don't feel at home, actually, you are following the saints. We are to have this longing for something that is not yet here. It's not yet, but it will be, right? So that was a powerful reminder. Thank you, sweetie.